The 7 levels of Doctor Doom's armor, explained. Level 1. Early design. Original capeless armor. Fantastic Four. Issue 5 from July 1962 introduced Victor Von Doom wearing an armor that looked radically different from the iconic design that would define him for decades to come. Created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, this debut appearance featured Doom in a metal suit that lacked the billowing green cape and regal presentation that would become his trademark. The armor appeared more witch-like and menacing in its simplicity, with a fully enclosed metal mask and gauntlets but without the dramatic flourishes. Lee and Kirby were rushing to create a soul-stirring, super sensational new villain for their successful Fantastic Four series, and Doom's name came first, described as eloquent in its simplicity, magnificent in its implied menace. The armor reflected this stripped-down urgency, prioritizing function over the theatrical presentation Doom would later embrace. This early design established several elements that would persist across all future iterations: the metal mask concealing Doom's scarred face, the full-body armor protecting him in combat, and technological sophistication combined with medieval aesthetics. The mask required refinement in subsequent issues, as Kirby's initial drawings hadn't yet solidified into the smooth, expressionless faceplate that would become one of comics' most recognizable visuals. Doom's origin wouldn't be fully explained until Fantastic Four Annual 2 years later, revealing how he donned his first armor in a Tibetan monastery after his college experiment disfigured him. The monks forged the armor, and Doom placed the red-hot mask on his face before it cooled, compounding his injuries through impatience and vanity. Level 2. Specialized Armors. Doom 2099 Armor. Marvel's 2099 imprint launched in the early 1990s with alternate future versions of classic characters, and Doom 2099 revealed that Victor Von Doom hadn't died, but had been transported decades into his own future. The armor he crafted upon arriving in this cyberpunk dystopia represented a significant technological leap even for Doom's genius, incorporating advancements that wouldn't exist for generations in the mainstream timeline. The most visually striking change was the suit's sleeker, more streamlined appearance with glowing red eyes that pierced through darkness like searchlights. The armor's construction used adamantium, the virtually indestructible metal best known for being bonded to Wolverine's skeleton, making Doom 2099 nearly impervious to physical damage. The metallic finish possessed a chrome-like sheen that reflected the neon-soaked aesthetic of the 2099 era while maintaining recognizable Doom design elements. Nanotechnology infused throughout Doom 2099's body granted capabilities his classic armor couldn't achieve. His reflexes increased to superhuman levels, and the armor's strength augmentation exceeded his original design. Significantly, though, memory loss upon arriving in 2099 meant he lacked magical knowledge. The suit incorporated sophisticated flight systems and phasing technology that allowed Doom to become temporarily intangible, passing through solid matter. This defensive capability made him extraordinarily difficult to corner, as he could phase through walls, floors, or energy barriers. The armor's aesthetic departed from the classical green and silver scheme in favor of darker tones with technological accents, reflecting the grimmer future Doom inhabited. First upgraded armor. Fantastic Four Issue 6, published just 1 month after Doom's debut, already featured significant upgrades to his armor's appearance. The most dramatic addition was the iconic green hooded cape that transformed Doom from a purely technological threat into a figure of regal menace, combining scientific advancement with medieval monarchy aesthetics. The titanium plating received refinement in Kirby's artwork, with cleaner lines and more defined segments that suggested sophisticated engineering rather than crude metalwork. The mask achieved its classic smooth appearance with rectangular eye slits that revealed nothing of the man beneath, creating an emotionless facade that perfectly matched Doom's cold, calculating personality. The green color scheme established in this issue would become so strongly associated with the character that even major redesigns rarely abandoned it completely. The functional improvements matched the aesthetic upgrades, establishing Doom's armor as far more than protective plating. The suit incorporated jet propulsion systems, allowing sustained flight, demonstrated when Doom escaped using a jetpack integrated into the armor's back. The gauntlets housed energy projection and enhanced strength, sufficient to trade blows with the Thing, whose superhuman power made him nearly unmatched in physical combat. Kirby's design emphasized that Doom's armor represented the perfect marriage of science and mysticism, technology and tradition. The second appearance solidified Dr. Doom's visual identity so completely that for decades, writers would continue reverting to variations of this design even after attempting radical reinventions. Level 3. Enhanced Armors. Vibranium Armor Doom. The 2010 Doom War storyline written by Jonathan Mayberry represented one of Doom's most ambitious and successfully executed schemes, targeting Wakanda's vibranium reserves through political manipulation and military precision. After using nanites to infiltrate the Wakandan government and supporting the fundamentalist Destiny movement to stage a governmental takeover, Doom successfully stole all 10,000 tons of Wakanda's processed vibranium. The metal's properties had never been fully explored even by Wakanda's scientists across 10,000 years of possession, but Doom discovered within weeks that Vibranium could amplify magical energies, creating a synthesis of science and sorcery that elevated his power to unprecedented levels. He constructed new armor from the stolen Vibranium, creating a suit that combined the metal's legendary durability with mystical enhancement systems Doom designed specifically to exploit Vibranium's newly discovered properties. The Vibranium armor allowed Doom to establish a global network of control by connecting mystically to every trace of Wakandan Vibranium scattered across Earth, including particles embedded in various technologies and weapons worldwide. He upgraded his Doombot army with Vibranium enhancements, transforming his robotic doubles from dangerous nuisances into nearly indestructible threats that required multiple heroes working in concert to defeat. The armor's magical amplification proved so powerful that Doom could theoretically control Captain America's shield and any other Vibranium-containing object through mystical connection, though the story focused more on his mass production of enhanced Doombots than these individual applications. T'Challa ultimately defeated Doom by using a device that rendered all Wakandan Vibranium inert, trapping Doom in now useless armor and removing the metal from Marvel continuity for 7 real-world years until 2015's Secret Wars restored it. This storyline showcased Doom's ability to master alien substances faster than their native users while demonstrating the terrifying potential when his scientific and magical knowledge combined with the right resources. Watcher Power Armor. Fantastic Four issue 375 from 1992 featured Doom confronting a rogue Watcher, one of the ancient cosmic beings who observe universal events without interference but possess power levels that dwarf most godlike entities. When Doom successfully drained this Watcher's cosmic energies through technological and mystical means, his standard armor proved completely inadequate to contain or channel such overwhelming power. He engineered a new suit specifically designed to house and weaponize Watcher-level cosmic forces, creating armor that bristled with spikes and additional power conduits that made him appear even more demonic than usual. The design prioritized function over aesthetics, with every spike and protrusion serving as an energy distribution point, preventing the cosmic power from overwhelming Doom's mortal form. The armor glowed with absorbed energy, creating an aura that made Doom appear to burn with stolen divinity. The cosmic power granted Doom abilities that approached omniscience within certain parameters, allowing him to perceive events across vast distances and understand complex universal mechanics that normally remained beyond even his extraordinary intellect. The armor's systems worked constantly to prevent the cosmic energies from incinerating Doom from within, as mortal biology wasn't designed to channel such forces, even with technological protection. Doom wielded this power to threaten not just the Fantastic Four, but potentially entire civilizations, as Watcher-level abilities included energy manipulation on planetary scales and awareness of events happening simultaneously across galaxies. However, the storyline followed the typical pattern where Doom's schemes eventually failed due to his pride and inability to truly master powers he had not earned through his own development. By Fantastic Four issue 381, Doom had returned to his classic armor design, the Watcher power either lost or deemed too dangerous to maintain, demonstrating how even successful power theft couldn't permanently elevate Doom beyond his established limits. Level 4. Mystical Armors. Valeria Skin Armor. Fantastic Four Volume 3 Issue 67, published in 2003 and written by Mark Waid with art by Mike Wieringo, featured perhaps Doom's most disturbing and morally reprehensible armor creation in the storyline, Unthinkable. Doom decided that his repeated failures against the Fantastic Four stemmed from relying too heavily on technology while neglecting the magical side of his expertise, so he committed fully to dark sorcery by seeking out Valeria, his childhood love whom he had abandoned decades earlier to pursue education in America. He tracked her down and convinced her to take his hand once more in what appeared to be romantic reconciliation. But Doom had engineered this reunion as part of a horrific mystical ritual. In excruciating fashion, the ritual ripped Valeria's skin from her living body and bonded it to Doom as magical armor, murdering his former love to gain power from demonic forces he had bargained with. Doom concluded his monologue with the grotesque statement that Valeria would always be close to his heart, literalizing his betrayal into physical horror. The skin armor granted Doom mystical abilities and knowledge equivalent to what he would have possessed had he devoted his entire life to studying magic, rather than splitting his attention between science and sorcery. The leather-like appearance created an unsettling contrast with his typical metallic protection, and the armor's biological origin meant it responded to magical energies in ways artificial materials could not. Doom used these enhanced abilities to imprison Franklin Richards in hell and challenge Reed Richards to escape a magical prison, confident that his newfound mystical mastery made him untouchable. The armor represented Doom's willingness to sacrifice anything and anyone to achieve his his goals, including the people who once meant something to him personally. Mark Waid's storyline emphasized that Doom's evil stemmed not from insanity, but from calculated ruthlessness, as he performed these horrific acts with full awareness of their moral weight, simply not caring about anything beyond his own ambitions. The skin armor eventually contributed to Doom's downfall in the story when Doctor Strange helped Reed Richards escape, resulting in Doom being dragged to hell temporarily, though he would eventually escape during the Thor Ragnarok storyline. Sorcerer Supreme Armor. An alternate universe introduced during Jason Aaron's Avengers run featured a Doctor Doom who had fully embraced his magical heritage, becoming his reality's Sorcerer Supreme and using that position to achieve his ultimate goal of world domination. This Doom wore armor that reflected his mystical mastery, with arcane symbols and enchantments visible across every surface, glowing with magical energies that pulsed in rhythm with spellcasting. The design departed from the standard green and silver scheme in favor of darker tones with golden, mystical accents that suggested both supreme magical authority and tyrannical power. The armor functioned as both technological protection and a massive magical amplifier, with every component serving dual purposes that demonstrated Doom's ability to perfectly synthesize his twin expertises when given the opportunity to develop them without distraction or defeat. This version of Doom gained abilities that placed him among the most powerful magical beings in the multiverse, rivaling and potentially exceeding standard universes Doctor Strange and raw mystical might. The Sorcerer Supreme title granted access to artifacts and spell forms typically restricted to the position's holder, and Doom naturally weaponized every advantage his role provided. He traveled across dimensions to confront other Doctor Dooms in their own realities, seeking to prove his superiority by defeating his alternate selves and absorbing their knowledge and power. The armor incorporated magical defenses against dimensional incursion and reality warping attacks, as Doom learned from observing how other versions of himself had been defeated. This storyline emphasized how dangerous Doom becomes when he achieves his goals, as ruling one reality proved insufficient for his ambitions once he recognized the multiverse's existence. The Sorcerer Supreme armor represented what Doom could accomplish if he chose to focus entirely on one discipline rather than splitting his genius between magic and science, though most stories suggest his greatest strength comes from combining both approaches rather than specializing in either alone. Level 5 Cosmic Powers. Infamous Iron Man Armor. Following the events of Civil War II in 2016, which saw Tony Stark fall into a coma, Doctor Doom made the shocking decision to become a hero and take up the Iron Man mantle in Stark's absence. This character turn came after the 2015 Secret Wars event, where Reed Richards used Beyonder power to heal Doom's face and purify his soul, fundamentally changing Victor's psychological makeup. The infamous Iron Man armor represented a mashup of Doom's classic design elements with Tony Stark's modern Iron Man technology, creating a visual identity that honored both legacies while establishing something new. The suit retained Doom's iconic faceplate and green color scheme, but incorporated sleek Iron Man armor plating, arc reactor, technology, and flight systems that rivaled Stark's own designs. The combination proved remarkably effective both aesthetically and functionally, as Doom's scientific genius matched Stark's, while his magical knowledge added capabilities Tony's purely technological approach could never achieve. The armor's systems integrated seamlessly with Doom's existing magical abilities, allowing him to blend repulsor blasts with mystical energy attacks in combinations that confused enemies, expecting either purely technological or magical threats. Doom used these capabilities to perform genuinely heroic acts, including rescuing Maria Hill, offering redemption to the Tinkerer, and terrifying villains who couldn't reconcile the idea of Doom as anything other than a threat. The infamous Iron Man series ran for 12 issues, during which Doom struggled with his new heroic identity and faced skepticism from heroes who couldn't trust his sudden alignment change. The armor represented Doom's attempt to prove he could be better, to honor the gift Reed Richards had given him by healing his face and removing the external mark of his disfigurement that had driven so much of his villainy. However, when Tony Stark eventually returned to active duty, Doom relinquished the Iron Man role and returned to his classic armor and ambiguous moral position, suggesting that heroism remained fundamentally incompatible with his nature, even when he genuinely attempted it. Dr. Juggernaut. An alternate reality featured Doctor Doom obtaining the Crimson Gem of Sidorak, the mystical artifact that granted Cain Marko his power as the unstoppable Juggernaut. Combining Sidorak's unstoppable momentum and invulnerability with Doom's technological armor and magical expertise created one of the most physically overwhelming versions of the character ever depicted. The armor incorporated the Crimson Gem directly into its chest piece, with red mystical energy radiating through channels across the metal surface, creating patterns that glowed brightest during movement. Doom's body mass increased increased dramatically under Sidorac's influence, making him a towering figure whose every step caused tremors. The helmet retained Doom's signature look while incorporating design elements from Juggernaut's distinctive headpiece, creating a hybrid that honored both power sources while remaining distinctly Doom in character. The mystical protection granted by Sidorac's power meant virtually no force could stop Doom's forward progress once he began moving, as momentum accumulated with each step until he became a living battering ram capable of smashing through any obstacle. The armor's technological systems worked in harmony with mystical energies, creating force fields that amplified rather than conflicted with Sidorac's protection, resulting in defensive capabilities exceeding either power source individually. Doom's intelligence remained intact, unlike the traditional Juggernaut, whose rage often overcame tactical thinking, making this fusion particularly dangerous. He could plan elaborate strategies while possessing raw power to bulldoze through opposition if subtlety failed. The Dr. Juggernaut armor never appeared extensively in mainstream continuity, but remained a popular what-if scenario, showcasing how Doom's genius for combining different power sources could elevate established powers to new heights. Level 6. Universal Threats. Excalibur Armor. Iron Man, Legacy of Doom, a 2008 miniseries by David Michelini, Bob Layton, and Ron Lim, featured Dr. Doom executing one of his most audacious mystical schemes by acquiring the legendary sword Excalibur from Arthurian legend. Doom struck a bargain with Mephisto, trading Iron Man's soul for passage through hell, which allowed him to capture Morgan Le Fay, King Arthur's half-sister and one of Marvel's most powerful sorceresses. He forced Morgan to perform a ritual that fused a shard of Excalibur directly with his armor, transforming the suit into a sleek black design with mystical energy coursing through every surface. The armor glowed with magical power as the Excalibur fragment bonded at the molecular level, granting Doom access to abilities that transcended his typical technological and sorceress combinations. The sword itself made Doom invincible, literally incapable of being harmed, while the armored fusion allowed him to channel Excalibur's legendary power through his entire body, rather than merely wielding it as a handheld weapon. The Excalibur enhanced armor could cut through any substance, including Iron Man's armor, with effortless swings, demonstrating power that rendered conventional defenses meaningless. Doom used this advantage to completely dominate Tony Stark in direct combat, forcing Iron Man to flee because no defensive system could withstand Excalibur's edge. However, the sword provided only invincibility, while its legendary scabbard granted invulnerability. Invincibility prevented defeat, while invulnerability prevented injury. When Iron Man eventually acquired the scabbard through solving Merlin's riddle, the wizard revealed both heroes had fought for King Arthur in 1989, though their memories had been erased. The climax required Doom to impale Iron Man with Excalibur, combining sword and scabbard to generate a magical blast powerful enough to destroy an interdimensional eyeball monster threatening reality. Merlin subsequently removed both artifacts from their possession, erasing their memories of the entire adventure. The Excalibur armor represented Doom's ability to manipulate legendary mystical artifacts, demonstrating how his scientific understanding of magical principles let him exploit forces that pure sorcerers like Morgan Le Fay couldn't fully control. Marquis of Death Doom. Mark Millar's run on Fantastic Four introduced the Marquis of Death, a reality-hopping villain who traveled between dimensions selecting apprentices to teach his terrible knowledge before discarding them when they disappointed him. Doom became the Marquis's apprentice, but secretly harbored plans for revenge after the Marquis brutally attacked him for perceived failures. The Marquis sent Doom to a Paleozoic-era time period where he spent millions of years waiting and studying, developing hatred so intense it sustained him across geological epochs. During this exile, Doom mastered dark magical arts beyond his previous comprehension while maintaining enough sanity to execute an elaborate centuries-long scheme. The armor Doom wore while pretending to be the Marquis's loyal servant incorporated elements from his master's costume combined with his own classic design, creating a hybrid appearance that disguised his true identity until the perfect moment for betrayal arrived. The armor's power levels reflected Doom's patience and planning, as he had spent literal millions of years preparing for single confrontation. When he finally revealed himself and attacked the Marquis, Doom wielded magical abilities that dwarfed his standard capabilities, having devoted cons to perfecting techniques that normally required entire lifetimes to master. The confrontation demonstrated how Doom's defining characteristic, his refusal to accept defeat permanently, could manifest in the most extreme possible way, waiting millions of years for revenge because he lacked any other option. This storyline established that Doom's willpower and hatred could sustain him through time frames that would drive most beings insane, and that given enough preparation time, he could match or exceed almost any foe. Later writers largely ignored the Doom is millions of years old element of this storyline, treating it as an anomaly rather than permanent character development, but the Marquis of Death armor remained memorable for representing Doom's ultimate expression of patient revenge against someone who underestimated him. Secret Wars 1984 armor. Marvel. Superheroes Secret Wars issue 10 from 1984 featured Doctor Doom achieving one of his most impressive power thefts by absorbing the abilities of the Beyonder, a cosmic entity who had transported heroes and villains to a distant planet to make them fight for his amusement. The Beyonder possessed reality-warping capabilities that exceeded almost any other being in the Marvel universe at that time, making him effectively omnipotent within the story's scope. Doom engineered technology specifically designed to drain and contain the Beyonder's power, succeeding against impossible odds through combination of scientific genius and mystical knowledge that let him understand forces beyond normal mortal comprehension. The armor he created to house this stolen power featured a more futuristic design than his standard suit, with smooth surfaces and technological aesthetics that reflected the cosmic nature of the abilities he had acquired. The toy company Mattel had requested this armor redesign as part of the Secret Wars tie-in toy line, leading to one of the few times external corporate influence directly affected Doom's comic book appearance. The Beyonder's power granted Doom abilities approaching true omnipotence, allowing him to reshape reality and battle multiple heroes simultaneously while barely exerting effort. He created constructs from nothing, manipulated matter and energy on fundamental levels, and possessed awareness across vast distances. However, the storyline emphasized that Doom's human limitations prevented him from fully controlling such overwhelming power. His pride and inability to comprehend the Beyonder's perspective created weaknesses that heroes eventually exploited, as Doom could steal power but couldn't earn the wisdom to use it properly. The armor's systems strained constantly to prevent cosmic energies from overwhelming Doom's mortal form, with visible energy discharges suggesting barely contained forces. When the Beyonder reclaimed his power, Doom's armor reverted to standard configuration, demonstrating that even successful theft of godlike abilities couldn't permanently elevate Doom beyond his established power level. Level 7, God Tier. Doom the Living Planet. An extraordinarily unusual alternate reality featured Doctor Doom achieving cosmic awareness and power on such a scale that he transcended physical form entirely, becoming a sentient planet similar to Ego the Living Planet. This version possessed a rocky surface where his consciousness resided, with his iconic mask's features visible in continental-scale geographic formations. The armor was quite literally a planetary crust, with tectonic plates serving as defensive systems, and a molten core providing power comparable to a star. Doom maintained his personality and ambitions despite transforming into a celestial body, using gravitational manipulation and cosmic awareness to interact with visitors to his surface. The living planet Doom could generate localized gravity wells, control atmospheric composition, and create surface conditions ranging from paradise to hellscape depending on his mood and tactical requirements. This incarnation represented Doom's ambitions taken to their logical extreme, as ruling a planet became literal when he transformed into the territory itself. Every organism on his surface existed at his sufferance, and he could reshape continents through will, making geological changes occur in moments. The living planet Doom retained his intelligence and magical knowledge despite lacking physical form, having evolved beyond such limitations. This version appeared primarily in multiversal Masters of Evil storylines, where Doom Supreme gathered alternate variants, using the living planet as mobile base and weapon. The sheer scale made this Doom nearly impossible to defeat through conventional means, as destroying a planet requires firepower beyond most heroes' capabilities. Doom the Annihilating Conqueror. Fantastic Four. Volume 4, Issue 15 from 2013 featured one of the most bizarre and powerful Doom variants ever created when Victor fused with two other major villains, Kang the Conqueror and Annihilus, to create an abomination that combined time travel mastery, cosmic-level annihilation powers, and Doom's genius into a single entity. The Annihilating Conqueror armor reflected this triple fusion with design elements from all three villains, creating a visually complex suit that bristled with temporal displacement devices, cosmic energy channeling systems, and Annihilus's distinctive insectoid aesthetic. The armor's color scheme abandoned Doom's traditional green in favor of darker purples and blacks with glowing energy accents, reflecting how the fusion had transformed him into something that transcended any single identity. The suit's systems operated across multiple time streams simultaneously, allowing Doom to exist in several temporal locations at once, while his Annihilus-derived powers granted access to the negative zone's vast energies. The temporal manipulation capabilities let this version of Doom attack enemies across their entire timelines, striking simultaneously in past, present, and multiple futures to ensure victory through omnipresence. The Annihilus component provided the cosmic control rod's power, granting energy projection capabilities that could devastate planets and immortality that made conventional death impossible. Doom's intellect coordinated these overwhelming abilities into coherent strategies rather than relying on brute force, using enhanced genius to identify weak points in reality's structure and exploit them through combinations of time manipulation and cosmic energy. The storyline treated this fusion as an apocalyptic apocalyptic threat requiring multiple hero teams working in concert to defeat, as the annihilating conqueror operated on a scale where traditional superhero confrontations proved inadequate. The armor's defeat came through exploiting the fusion's inherent instability, as combining three massive egos into one being created psychological vulnerabilities that clever heroes exploited. God Emperor Doom armor. Jonathan Hickman's 2015 Secret Wars storyline represented the absolute peak of Doom's power across all Marvel continuity when Victor, working with Molecule Man, successfully killed the omnipotent Beyonders and absorbed their reality-warping abilities. Using this godlike power, Doom reconstructed fragments of the destroyed multiverse into Battleworld, a patchwork reality where he ruled as God Emperor Doom with literally divine authority. The armor he wore reflected his ascension to godhood, with a white and gold color scheme that abandoned his traditional green entirely, symbolizing his transformation from mortal monarch to divine ruler. The suit appeared more ceremonial than functional, as Doom no longer required physical protection when he could simply will threats out of existence. Intricate patterns covered every surface, suggesting mystical significance and royal authority rather than technological systems. Though Doom's power rendered such distinctions meaningless when he could reshape reality through thought alone, God Emperor Doom's abilities exceeded the Infinity Gauntlet, the Phoenix Force, and essentially any other power source in Marvel Comics, as the Beyonders existed outside the normal multiverse's limitations. He resurrected the dead, rewrote personal histories, and maintained Battleworld's reality through constant exertion of will. Doom took Sue Storm as his wife, assigned roles to Franklin and Valeria Richards, and created a society where his word literally defined truth. The armor served primarily as visual identifier rather than providing actual protection, as God Emperor Doom had transcended the need for such mortal tools. However, Reed Richards and surviving heroes eventually challenged his rule, and in a crucial moment, Doom admitted his jealousy of Reed's life and relationships. This confession relinquished Doom's claim to the Beyonder power, with Molecule Man transferring it to Reed Richards, who restored the proper multiverse. The God Emperor Doom armor represented the ultimate expression of Victor's ambitions fully realized, but demonstrated that even omnipotence couldn't satisfy him, as his envy prevented him from enjoying the godhood he had stolen. If you enjoyed this ranking, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into comic book powers and abilities. Which armor surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one.